which I believe is sort of the best of both sides of it. It's agency services with a client side perspective, running a team of 100 inside of a very successful organization. I kind of know what the CMOs that we work with expect now. The more you learn, the more you do, the more you do, the more you fail, the more you fail, the more you learn. It's my favorite John Maxwell maxim. And it's literally been a repetitious calling card for my life of learning by doing. That learning and doing, that imperfect action kind of was, as you called it earlier, you didn't use those exact words, but that's what I heard is like imperfect action. Like for me, it just became this snowball in my favor. Best thing about Dave is the worst thing about Dave for some people is that it is what it is. You get what you get. Like you don't ever have to wonder where you are. Recognizing that is all a function of messaging, and also recognizing that your brand is what people remember about you. So you have to make the time as the founder, as the leader. If you're going to go the route of moving from founder to operator to CEO, you must work on the business in order for it to grow. It's definitely, if you want to eventually just be owner and it's a passive asset, you will have had to work.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Business podcast, a project of the PTEX Group. Gain valuable, actionable ideas from the world's top business leaders to help you take the next step in your business journey. And now, here is your host, Meny Hoffman.
Coming to you from the PTEX headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. This is the podcast for no-nonsense advice to help you learn, grow, and lead. Today, I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Trey Sheneman. Trey went from being laid off and $95,000 in debt to building marketing funnels for John Maxwell, Dave Ramsey, and brands doing 8 to 9 figures. Today, he helps companies scale through what he calls the compass method, and he breaks it down in a way that actually makes sense. We will talk about leadership, messaging, culture, and what it really looks like to work on your business, not just in it. If you ever felt stuck trying to grow your business, not sure what to fix, where to focus, or how to lead with clarity, this episode is for you. Without further ado, let's jump right into our conversation with Trey Sheneman. Trey, thank you so much for joining me on the Let's Talk Business podcast.
I am so blessed and honored to be here. You have such a long-standing career that I know I can learn a lot from. I know we're just getting to know each other, but I'm so excited to speak with you today and to hopefully encourage your listeners in the realm of growth marketing. And that's kind of been my lot in life. I'm excited to share today.
I appreciate it. So my listeners are probably bored of me saying it, but I love when I get a guest that is recommended by a listener, a friend, a past guest on the show, because they have felt this, they know the show, they know the style of the show, they know that we deliver no nonsense advice, and we try to give people practical advice as they give us their 30, 40 minutes to listen to the show. So that always, almost like it helps me with the screening process. I don't have to get this cold email, hey, get this guest on the show, get that guest on the show.
Well, that says a lot about your reputation too, and you understand the power of a really sound mind and a good network. And
yes.
So I'm encouraged.
And I have to say it, like we attract great guests, and we also have a phenomenal loyal listenership. And this is and I'm going to just give a shout out to our listeners. At any given time, you come across a great book, a great author, a great human being that you feel could be a great guest on the show. By all means, podcast@ptexgroup.com, send it our way. So Trey, you have a lot going on. You have just, you're building a company on your own, which we'll talk about it. But your past, I think a lot of it from your past, which is very intriguing. I don't want to give it away. You give it away for our listeners. Give us a little bit of a background, how you got started.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So this is year 16 for me in growth marketing. It's actually a second career. So my schooling was, I'm a person of faith. I'm a practicing Christian. So I actually went to seminary. So I thought I was going to be in religious ministry pretty much my entire life. The way that took shape for me after graduate school was I was actually a teacher at a private Christian school, and the coach. Did that for almost 5 years. Met my wife there. The last year that we were employed there, she was a middle school teacher. I was a high school teacher. We decided we want to start trying to have a family. And we had kind of come to the agreement that I was going to dabble in internet marketing as a way to replace her income so that whenever our son came, she could stay home to be a mom. And so I had started learning at the time what's called affiliate marketing, built my first funnel in 2009. And unbeknownst to us, that we were in a recession back then. We ended up the school went through a pretty stark decline in enrollment. So we both ended up losing our jobs the next year. And so we were $95,000 in debt and on food stamps and in a
wow.
really, really bad place. And this internet marketing thing was really the only shot that I had to do something that could have some real potential to it. Teacher salaries were very small. And so like the idea of me going and getting another teaching job to try and provide for an entire family just wasn't in the cards. And so my wife and I both agreed that it was really time to go after this internet marketing thing. And man, it's just made all the difference in my life, like really taking that step of faith and really going after it. So 2009 built my first funnel. 2010, a friend of mine and his father-in-law asked if I thought this internet marketing thing, which is how they put it, would work in their real estate investment business. And I said, well, I'm not sure, but I'd love to try. And we worked it out. And that first year, we had a really great growth year, applying some SEO practices and some affiliate thinking in a very non-internet space in commercial real estate. This was back when auction.com and LoopNet were the only places you could see commercial real estate. And I went out and bought the domain hotelsforsaleblog.com and got it to rank rank one for hotels for sale on Google. And it just flooded the business with a whole ton of leads. And, that was when I really knew like this internet thing, like I can figure it out. And so just to kind of give the high level for the listeners, and then we can jump into some questions. So 2011 to 2014, I started my first agency with partners, with investors. It was called Pipeline. It's still in existence today. Had a great run there. We were very niche. We were doing social media reputation management for hotels. 2015, I had an opportunity to join what I would consider a more full service growth marketing agency called Blueprint in Metro Atlanta as their VP of strategy. And I was there for about 3 years. And then so that was about year 7 in, I kind of felt like, this agency thing has been interesting. I think I want to go client side. Now, Meny, I know you'll know what that means, going client side, but basically I wanted to try and become a CMO inside of a company. That was like my next kind of evolution of my career. And I had an awesome opportunity to join a pretty well-known, profound writer, leadership speaker named John Maxwell inside of his company. And so I was running the growth marketing, sales and marketing side of his nonprofits. So he has an organization called the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation and Equip. And that was probably one of the biggest rocket ship runs in my career. We did a lot of really interesting things in the world of paid social media advertising, event-based fundraising. We raised a bunch of money for some of the endeavors he had going that year. And then from there, I was able to join forces, which was such a full circle moment for me. So I started this answer by saying we were $90,000+ of debt and on food stamps. Well, there was a program that really changed our life. And it was a program called Financial Peace University, which is by a guy named Dave Ramsey, that teaches you kind of what he calls God and grandma's ways of handling money, and I didn't have any idea how to handle money. And I wasn't really making a ton of money. Obviously I was making more money every year in internet, but 2018, 2019, I got a call from a headhunter to move to Nashville, Tennessee to go work for Dave Ramsey in the Financial Peace University division.
Oh, wow.
And which was such a blessing for me. And so I came in as a director level, really working on their budgeting app, which is called Every Dollar. So that was my first chance to really scale a SaaS product. And we did really well with that product. But about 6 months after being there, I was promoted to be the equivalent of the CMO of that entire division of Dave's company. So it was executive director of marketing for the Financial Peace University division at Ramsey. I was there for almost 4 years. We had an awesome run. And then after that, once COVID came, whether we'll talk about this or not, we have a son who's not well. He's been in and out of the hospital his whole life. That very first son that was born back in 2010. And COVID year for us was a real hard year with his health, where we realized, he's finally going to have some things that are life-threatening that started to happen to him. So between that and, I got COVID, and I was almost 400 pounds, Meny, when I got COVID, and I did not do well, as you can imagine, with COVID, and I almost died from it. And so anyways, you get a fresh perspective when you have situations like that happen in your life. And I kind of knew the entrepreneur thing was the way I could get out. I could be more involved in my son's life, helping my wife out. We have another daughter as well. I could take better care of myself. I could get on a better program. So made the decision to kind of leave the corporate world. And now we own a company called Herald, which I believe is sort of the best of both sides of it. It's agency services with a client side perspective, having been running a team of 100 inside of a very successful organization. I kind of know what the CMOs that we work with expect now. And so, yeah, Herald, our niche is sort of what we would call public figure or founder-led brands, having worked for John Maxwell and Dave Ramsey and Darren Hardy and Brendan Burchard and a lot of really big, boisterous, bold kind of public figure brands. That tends to be who we work with now. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been an epic ride of getting to this place of entrepreneurship.
Wow, this is you're still getting started, huh?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so I want to go back to a little bit. Obviously, we'll get to speak a lot about what you're currently doing and your method. I think it's literally eye opening in the way you do it with the Compass method. I do want to go back a little bit because life like those packets in your life where you work on this from this agency, that agency, this company, that company. Usually it's outside of the work you do, it's what you pick up and you take along. So I want to go, obviously John Maxwell is a name, is very well known in leadership and is known a lot of his teaching throughout the years. What could you say have you taken along from that part of your journey?
Yeah, I would say very succinctly, the more you learn, the more you do, the more you do, the more you fail, the more you fail, the more you learn. It's my favorite John Maxwell maxim. And that's literally been a repetitious calling card for my life of learning by doing. And that one of my greatest takeaways of working for John and Dave and some of those early startup agencies and clients that we have is non-fatal failure is the greatest teacher. When you can actually miss and to learn from those misses and still recover and develop resilience and the ability to try again. Because you're in this space. So much of what we do as a service to the brands and clients that we work with is testing. We don't walk in and just automatically have the entire funnel, the entire brand campaign, the entire strategy immediately figured out. We might have a wealth of experience to pull from to pick a good starting point, but it still comes down to actually running the campaigns, testing the messages, learning from that. So I think there's like a natural bent in the way I was made. I believe my creator made me is to have a bent towards trying and failing and that being okay. I grew up in the house of my father was the son of an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur until the day that he died. When he passed away, he had his most recent invention in his shed behind his house with a business plan of how to take it to market and a whole bunch of prototypes of it in his shed where he was building this new contraption. He's multi-time inventor, just an eccentric, interesting man. But my father grew up in a world where his father never hit any one of those things big, and it was really inconsistent. So my father went the route of working for the same company his whole career. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then, my name is Trey in our family. I'm Trey because I'm the third. So I have the same name as my grandfather and my father.
Wow.
Trey is a nickname. And so I kind of had this, complicated is the word I would use, Meny, like this almost confounding childhood of like, which one of these guys am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be the dreamer entrepreneur of my grandfather or the stick and stay loyalist of my father? And so I will say what I found in this space for me was, I have ended up working in a bunch of different places. That's kind of the grandfather side of me of, being willing to chase opportunity. But I've done the same thing everywhere that I've gone, which is grow. I have focused on my own growth and my own resilience and my own learning. I still do it now. I still read 4 or 5 books a month. I still discover at least one new podcast every week. Like that resilient, elastic mind was, in my opinion, I think what actually made my career successful. And sticking with it, even though I did it for different people and in different places. Wow. It was kind of the same job everywhere that I went. So, so I will say that John maxim of the more you do, like I have gotten here by doing, and that doesn't mean I do it all right, but I just get up and do it again when I do it wrong. And like having that like almost undefeatable mindset is sort of what we bring to the table with our clients too, of we will figure it out. We might not figure it out in one, but we will figure it out.
So strong. There's a line that I use so many times, which says version 1 is always better than version none.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that before. That's so good though.
Yeah. And people, are there and complicating things and thinking and thinking and thinking, and then all of a sudden they never take action. And you never learn so much than taking action. Like, in one of the things I speak a lot about is with business owners. They come to me, who could build me a business plan? And they go on and say how many pages that business plan needs to look like. And I always say that there's so many things that you could pivot. You start off your business and you pivot. Do it on one page, just the basic. How does the next 12 months look like? Yeah, yes, of course, if you're going to investors, you're taking big money, you have to have much more data behind it and research. But if you're starting something, you have this service business, your product business, you want to bring in something, you want to create something. And the same is with jobs. People will sit in a job. They know they want to do something. They want to take action, but they'll just sit there, and just out of complacency or even the fear of what's going to happen. Nothing will happen. It's another step in your long life with all kinds of things happening. So I appreciate that, and I think it's a very important lesson for leaders and even in anybody in life.
Yeah, I will tell you the other. That version 1 is so much better than version 9. It's so good. So interesting for me. Another huge learning moment for me was when I made that switch from being agency side to going client side. I could tell that the client side roles were going to be more leadership driven than they were tactically driven, exactly. The doing of the work, right? And I made this decision, got approval from my wife. Part of it was because of our personal situation of us still feeling like we had this hole we were trying to climb up, because it wasn't just the $100,000 we had to figure out how to pay off and get back to whole. It was all the lost years of not putting money away and not having any investments or compounding interest. So whenever we made the move to go client side, I got this in my employment contract that I was going to be allowed to moonlight. I wanted to be completely on the up and up. That in the nights and weekends, I wasn't going to go deliver pizzas or, work at the grocery store. I was going to build marketing funnels on the side for 2 reasons. Number one, I was good at it and I knew I could make good money on the side. But number 2, I wanted to stay sharp as the leader of the people doing it at the companies I was working for. And I'm going to tell you, 100% approval rate for everybody that I talked to about it. They're like, why would we not just don't compete with us? And it's like, well, of course, ethically, I wouldn't compete with you anyways. But they're like, yeah, as long as you're not competing with us and you want to work 80 hours a week and another 30 on the weekends and stay sharp, go for it. And I know that sounds crazy. I did that solid for 5 years. It was worth every hour of I was able to still be so tactically present with the people that I was leading. And I didn't have to worry about things passing me by or the world moving at a different pace than I could keep up with. And one of my mantras in life for anybody who's young, just getting started out in business, marketing, whatever it is first be a generalist, then be a specialist. So when the right opportunity comes, you can be a capitalist. And what I mean by that is you got to kind of try your hand at a wider range of things early on till you find that thing that you're like, man, my skills and my talents and my giftedness, they really align with this. For me, the one area of marketing is direct response copywriting and performance marketing, building response funnels. That became my thing. I can do this. And so then once you've done that and you get really, really good at it, you're blown away by the opportunities that come knocking on your door that you can capitalize on. So of course, I mean capitalist because you can take advantage of the opportunities, but I also mean capitalist in that your income and your buying power can go up too because you're good at what you do. And I will say that learning and doing that imperfect action kind of was, as you called it earlier, use those exact words, but that's what I heard is imperfect action. For me, it just became this snowball in my favor of I've just done this so many times now. I can save the time and energy and really cut to the chase for people. And so it's enabled us, quite frankly, to do well out of the gates at Herald too. I would say another kind of maxim that I've tried to live by a little bit from my time, learned this from Dave, is you got to leave everything better than you found it. Meaning I want to go out way better than I even came in, when I'm leaving places. Even when we have clients that occasionally cancel on us, it's well, I want the last month of your agreement with me to be the best month that you had, because you don't ever know. In the future, you don't ever know when our paths might cross again. And I want to be somebody who blesses, those that are coming and going. It's just a posture, that I have felt has been shown to me, and I want to show it to others.
Before we dive into this week's episode, I wanted to share an opportunity that many business owners are already taking advantage of. Now, we're about to wrap up Q1. If you're feeling stuck or unsure about your next move in your business, there's still time to turn things around. That's where a clarity session comes in. This is a focused one-time strategy session with me personally, where we'll break down your biggest challenges, identify opportunities, and map out your best next steps for your business. You'll walk away with a clear action plan to move forward with confidence. Now, I want to make this clear from the get-go. This is not an ongoing consulting offer. You know your business best. This session is simply about giving you the clarity and direction you need to take action and make the rest of the year a success. Many entrepreneurs have already gained incredible value from those sessions, so don't miss out. Reach out to me now by emailing podcast@ptexgroup.com. I look forward to speaking to you and seeing how I could bring more clarity to your business. So let's talk about the time that you were at the Ramsey company. So a lot of people, even our listeners, surprisingly know Dave Ramsey from his radio show and and everything about money. Obviously, he has a whole different side of the business, which is entrepreneur leadership. I found out about Dave Ramsey through that side of the business. I obviously to the podcast, and then eventually I attended some of the events, the summits, and read the book. Obviously, even currently, I listen to the show pretty often. We had multiple hosts throughout the years, but I've seen that. I've gone through it now. Back to Dave as we speak. So one of the interesting things is he speaks very much about culture. He speaks very much about the human element of business, how to treat your people, how to work with the humans in the company, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I think he's going 1,100 people strong. I think it's a $300+ million company, privately held, obviously with the kids involved. Talk to me of what has that taught you as far as being part of that organization on the human side of working with leaders there?
Yeah, I would say it's not even close that Dave is the most authentic leader that I've ever worked for or with, period. Like the best thing about Dave is the worst thing about Dave for some people is that it is what it is. You get what you get. Like you don't ever have to wonder where you are. And I think that challenged me because I had a large bend towards people pleasing kind of early in my career, saying what people wanted to hear rather than what they actually needed to hear. And man, you can only be in that organization about 30 seconds before they're going to say, no, that's not how that works here. Like we are going to have enough respect and candor with one another to say what needs to be said and to not let it go. And I think that's a huge reason why they were able to grow as fast as they were, is like they walked around with high levels of integrity, honor, honesty, authenticity, and everything, especially Dave. The other amazing thing that I learned about Dave is, as you can imagine, I'm not sure if you've been on the campus. The campus is beautiful here in Metro Nashville. I still live here now near the campus. Dave's office is a sight to behold. If I'm being fully transparent, it's beautiful. Dave would be walking the halls of a 250,000 square foot building. He could be sitting over in the corner, but he'd be walking by your desk. What are you working on? Do you need any help? Is there any blockers? There was this leading by walking around posture that he had that just said he was available. He was there. He was in it. And I think the culture there really bought into that mindset of, we all put our shoes on the same way. We all put our pants on the same way and show up to do the work. And I think the other like mystery of Dave that is just so much of his genius is, Meny, I'm not sure there's another CEO on the planet that talks to his customers for 2 or 3 hours every day, Monday through Friday. And he did that for 25 years, on the radio. That is so much market research coming back to you in real time. And that posture of talking to the customer is such a guiding light, kind of North Star principle in the way Ramsey is run. I had never been anywhere before that. I had never worked for any brands, any agencies, or even at Maxwell. I had never seen a company so convinced about talking to the customer and actually hearing the customer's feedback, using the customer's words as the marketing messages, like telling those stories. So I think that real connectedness to their customer and to each other that Dave modeled both of those things so well was the biggest thing that I learned there. And it's something that I try and do now with our customers. Like I'm still on every one of our customer calls right now, even as we've grown, but I just think it's so invaluable to have that relationship as you can.
Mhm. One of the things that I very much admired, because you could see a lot of companies that have phenomenal cultures. Let's call it very loose in terms of productivity, loose on what they actually accomplish, because of their spending so much on culture, it takes away from their productivity. It takes away from holding people accountable. I think they, Entre Leadership, the Ramsey company in general, I found that they have somehow the perfect balance of not confusing the two. We could have a great culture. We could give you fun activities. We could, perks in parties and everything
Oh yeah.
like that. But accountability with KRAs is
Weekly
spot
reports.
on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
and
I will tell you one of my most favorite things about my role there. So at my kind of the top of my time there, I had 11 direct reports. I had 107 that I was responsible for, down from my 11 direct reports. And it was so special for me. Every Friday, I would get a weekly report, in my inbox that was all 107 people's, red, yellow, and green, on 4 or 5
wow,
different things. And it just I could very quickly scan and say, who are the Reds this week? Like, who do I need to go and see and sit with and say, what's going on? Oh, your daughter had a hard week at school. Well, do you need an extended lunch today so you can go and spend some time? Like, they enabled and empowered us with so much actionable information to make sure that culture wasn't done haphazardly. It was done with a high level of intentionality and true like actual care for mankind, which so many companies just blow past. They don't think about actual care. So yeah, I mean, I have nothing but, I often say that'll be the best place I've ever worked. I hope I can build something equally as cool at Herald, but it'd be the best place I ever worked.
okay, so that's good. So let's speak about Harold. Let's speak about what you do actually for clients, and then obviously I want to dive in a little bit on the compass methods
Yeah,
based on time
sure.
alone.
Yeah. So Herald is, our tagline is revenue growth consulting for mission driven brands. So we really want to lean in on brands that see profit as leverage, is the way I would say it. They've got Homispic is a name we've mentioned. Obviously I have a special needs child, so I'm very intrigued and encouraged by the double bottom line work that an organization like a Homispic is doing. So that's a great example of the kinds of brands we want to go and partner with. And so what we do for them is, every brand that comes to work with us, whether they realize they're getting it or not, they all go through the compass method. Some buy it outright, and some come more consultatively, which would kind of be how Homispic has come. And I'm sort of working them through the modules of the compass method, whether they are actually, it's known that that's what they're going through. And so the whole point of the compass method, which we can go into detail on that if you want to, but the whole point of the compass method is, we have found that brands that grow predictably, there is a certain level of market research, customer understanding, product understanding, and current stack understanding that you have to have in order to be able to even chart a course on what winning needs to look like for the brand. So we kind of jokingly say the reason why we call it the compass method is because it always points north for the brand when we're done doing it. It always says, this is true north. Like, this is where we need to go. And so once a brand goes through the compass method with us, it's a 4 to 6 week engagement. Once they go through that, one of 3 things happens. Either the relationship is done at that point and they say, thank you so much for our new map. We're going to go install it ourselves. Being frank, that's very rare that happens. Normally 1 of 2 things happens at the end. They have a team that they think can install the compass, but they don't have a leader. And so I'll stay on as a growth advisor or a fractional CMO. Or they have they have the fractional, they have the CMO, they don't have the team. Then my team will stay on and activate the plan and the compass. So, does it end up looking like kind of a marketing agency at the end? Yes, it does, but we just get there sort of in a unique way. A lot, very heavy on market research as a firm. I would say that's probably our greatest skill that we bring to the table, even more than the campaigns we actually activate or build.
Would it be fair to say that going through the process is more for an established brand versus a startup?
Yeah, really, really great question. I would say it works really well. Brands that are 3 to 5 million in revenue and they aspire to go to 10 to 50. I would say, even with Homispic, in full transparency for Homispic, like, I've worked for an organization that is on the level that Homispic is on, having worked at Ramsey, but my division wasn't that big, right? So like the biggest division I've ever personally been responsible for was about 70, 75 million a year. And so I like to help be the guide that scales brands from that 3 to 5 million mark to that 50 to 75 million mark, because I've done it multiple times before. And I feel really comfortable in what the systems and the plans have to look like when you get to 10, when you get to 20, when you get to 30. I think some people think, Meny, that it's just spend more and it'll grow. And that is just couldn't be further from the truth of the systems have to actually change as you get to new levels of revenue. And that's what I love about the Compass Method process, is it helps us paint that picture in a really clear way for a business owner so they understand what they're getting into.
So let's dive in, if you don't mind. Let's dive in. It's like, where do you start usually, and what is the Compass?
Yeah,
how is it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Compass Method, it's an acronym. So every letter in the Compass stands for a report or an audit that we do. So the first 6 are all looking backwards, and the 7th one is looking forward. So the C is a competitive set analysis, and not just like who are your competitors, but literally gutting the funnels and the offerings of 4 or 5 or 6 brands. The way we always talk to our clients is, when you lose, who do you lose to? We want to know those names. And then we go and understand those brands. We secret shop their funnels. Like, we go to the bottom of the pool on understanding exactly why our prospective client is losing to these brands. Like, where are they different? So that's the C. The O is then, now based on your competitive set analysis, what is your actual offer, and how does your offer stack up to those of your competitors? So there's 5 tiers that we go through in an offer analysis that we work through our client around. Is it clear enough? Is it customer centric enough? Have you removed enough risk? Is there risk reversal in your offer? So we work through that. We assess their offer. Then from there, the M is their messaging. So based on your offer in this market, what are the differentiated statements, positioning statements, the gaps in those statements? Like, how are you actually making yourself stand out? The P is then your personnel. So it's like, are you insourcing everything, or have you been outsourcing everything, or have you been doing a little bit of both? And if you've been doing a little bit of both, who's holding who accountable, and what does their rhythms look like, and what do their meeting cadences look like, and how are they making plans? And so there's a lot heavy on the personnel. Then the A is, all right, now who's your avatar, and do you have more than one? How many different customer personas do you actually have? Do you have a different version of your offer for each one of your customer personas? Does avatar 1 need a different risk reversal than avatar 2? So we help them start to pair some of that up. And then based on all of that research, the first S in the word Compass is a SWOT analysis that is a synthesis of all of those gaps that we've now found, to basically say, okay, here's where you were strong. Here's where you're weak. So strong, we keep. Weak, we kill. Here's opportunity. Those are the things that we create, like they're net new things that need to be built. And then the threats is we clarify, and they either need to be killed because they're weaknesses, or they're actually opportunities in disguise. So we kind of sift through all of that research and get to the brass tacks on where the real opportunities are. And then the second S is the strategic plan. Now, how to, over the next 90 to 120 days, do we actually create those opportunities into reality, like actually make those things happen for the brand? And then we from there, we kind of we install with brands what their kind of quarterly rhythm needs to be, because the Compass should never be a one-time, you did it once and that was all you have to do. There's parts of the Compass that you should be doing quarterly as a function of growth, kind of, quarter in, quarter out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important. Like, obviously, we also run a branding and marketing agency, and the conversation comes up so often where I could speak to business owners, and they'll spend a lot of effort with consultants on operations, or how to fix up their warehouse to speed up the delivery, whatever it is. And they don't realize, even if they spend on marketing, they'll say, oh, we spend on marketing, we have a marketing agency. But if you're not clear on who you're going after, who the client is, what the messaging is, and ultimately the SWOT analysis, these things, you're spending a lot of money without the proper return on it, and sometimes without zero return, or at least not maximizing the return. I want to ask you. I want to dive in a little bit on this. I'm not going to go through the whole Compass method at the moment, but messaging and. I'll try to play devil's advocate, because I sometimes have to be in the other side and defending us.
Love it.
But now I'll put you in the hot seat on it. This, because you mentioned it, a lot of people say, well, our market is broad. We try to sell to everyone, or we don't want to lock ourselves into this avatar, or we don't want to lock ourselves in with this messaging because maybe it's hitting on a pain point, but the other guy's just buying without that pain point, and they don't allow you to go so deep in your messaging. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think if you are selling to an audience of everyone, you're selling to an audience of no one. And there's no real way you can get to economies of scale without having a very identified ideal customer profile. You might run a really awesome $3 million, $5 million, $6 million business, which is a great business. But if you want to build a $50 million, $100 million business, you have got to become the answer to a segment of the market in your space. And the only way you do that is by really leaning in on messaging to the right avatar. In my experience, maybe there's some experience outside of the ones that I have, but the ones where I've seen that really scale, it really, obviously your offer has to be good, but the messaging on that offer almost has to be equally as good, or else it's just noise, right? There's just noise going on in the world of how you cut through. So, and more important is that it's not a message, it's messaging. Like it's more than one message. It's a message for every pain point. It's differentiated statements. There's a lot of work in what would resonate with you. It's going to resonate different with me, even though we're both business owners who have teams. So there's some products and services where we're both the same buyer for, but the version of that funnel that's going to resonate with you, do you live in Metro New York? I live in the South, you live in the Northeast. Like there's cultural differences between you and I. So but we're both business owners in branding and marketing, right? So we're the same avatar to some degree. Like CRM companies are going to target us, or you follow what I'm saying? So there are products that you and I both are buyers of, but the funnel I'm going to respond to is very different than the funnel you're going to respond to. And so recognizing that is all a function of messaging. And also recognizing that your brand is what people remember about you at the end of the day. It really is. Like you can say it's all these other things, but it's like when your name comes up in conversation, it's what they say about you, what they remember. That is your brand to those people. That is a function of really good or really bad messaging, or really good or really bad product experiences, right? And I'm rarely the one who's asked to work on the product. So I'm always the one that just works on the messaging is the way that I think about it. But yeah, I think messaging is of all of the steps in the compass, other than the offer, I think it's the most important step.
Hey listeners, are you struggling to create beautiful looking proposals? Is it a hassle every time you need to prepare a quote or proposal for your clients? Is collecting signatures still a manual process? Well, it's time to upgrade to PandaDoc. At PTEX, we use PandaDoc for all our proposals, employee documentation, and so much more. It saves us time, keeps everything organized, and our documents look incredibly professional. With customizable templates, real-time collaboration, and e-signatures, PandaDoc turns creating documents into quick and easy steps. Plus, it integrates with so many other tools, streamlining your workflow and boosting productivity. Try PandaDoc today by visiting ptex.co/PandaDoc and start your free trial. Trust me, it's going to be a game changer for your business. That's ptex.co/PANDADOC. What would you say outside of being a generalist, let's say, what are the other things you find when you audit messaging of companies? What would be one or two mistakes that you find?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say they use we a lot more than they use you.
Okay.
Meaning they have decided, I'll kind of give my buddy Donald Miller a little bit of a plug here. Like they've decided that they're the heroes of their own story and their own message rather than the customer being the hero of the story. I think that's a huge one. The other one is I think they've not sat and read it with 7th grade or 8th grade eyes. So they've literally just not simplified it enough for a general person to take 3 to 7 seconds and read it and know exactly what they say. I would say it's overcomplicated and it's too we focused is the most common thing common mistakes I see brands making in their messaging.
Mm-hmm. In terms of you, obviously at this point you're building your own company. You're also dealing with a lot of other companies. What would you say is some best practices you have implemented? As much as, like you mentioned before, you want to stay connected to your customer, but at the same time you need to work on your business versus in your business. What's the balance that you're created to yourself, or to potentially you would speak to your customers that would sit in the weeds and not work enough on the business versus in the business?
Yeah, I think triggered surveys that have a couple of really specific questions in them running on autopilot in the background are a huge way to get just diamonds in the rough from your customers all the time. So simple questions like, say you said it's like for us, it's at day 30 after kind of being in our activation team, they're going to get, asked like, how's it been? What was life like before you engaged with Herald? What has life been like since you engage with Herald? And both of those are not like radio buttons in a list. They're just free form answers. So you just let people speak from their heart and tell you honestly. I think that's a great mechanism for talking to a customer. Obviously, you and I are in similar spaces. Like I have standing client calls with my customers. So I talk to them first week of the month. We do a flighting call on what are we going to be doing for the month. Last week of the month, we do a reporting call. How did it work? How did it not work? What are we going to do about it? We also have I think a huge way to talk to your customers. We use Slack, whether you use Teams or Slack or some other kind of a chat feature. Like some of my customers have my cell phone number. They could call me if they really come down to it. I'm a big Slack guy. So I have a DM running with every single one of my clients right now, and I'm constantly talking to them. So it's going to look different for different kinds of businesses. But I think the gist of my point is whether you're using phone, chat, email, you have to be talking. You have to be hearing from your customers regularly, and so you need to make sure that you're doing that. So I would say I'm hearing from customers multiple times per month. Is there any follow-up you on that, or you want me to talk about the whole own your business versus in your business side of this as well?
Yeah. So
let's
go there.
So I would say that's the frequency of that. I'm a big believer, whether you use Traction or EOS or you use what Path for Growth and those guys teach, which I think Alex and them do a great job. I think you've got to have an operational system for your business that forces you to work on your business at least quarterly. We functionally keep what we literally call it our on it meeting in our business every week. That's our 45 minutes of saying, what are those big things we're supposed to be doing this week? And if something's really big, we'll say, oh, we need to push that one out to the quarterly. And we're going to attack that issue, at the quarterly. That's an on it issue. But I think our businesses can't grow if we don't work on them. So you have to make the time as the founder, as the leader. If you're going to go the route of moving from founder to operator to CEO, you must work on the business in order for it to grow. It's definitely, if you want to eventually just be owner and it's a passive asset, you will have had to work on it a lot. So I think at least quarterly, you got to be finding the time to work on it, all aspects of it, which is why some parts of the compass, our method with our brands, we do quarterly. We update their competitive set quarterly because sometimes competitors leave the market. Sometimes new competitors encroach on the market and they kind of come out of nowhere. We got to know about them. We revise their offers quarterly. If we're going to revise their offers, then we've got to revise their messaging. Their personnel doesn't necessarily get revised quarterly, but they certainly get performance reviewed quarterly. The avatars, again, if the offer changes, the avatar changes a little bit. So it's all connected, right? It's all kind of part of keeping your hand on the pulse of the business and your market so that you can grow.
Yeah, a lot of times I speak to leaders and they say, I don't have time to work on the business. I'm so in the trenches. My response to that is always that you do have time because you do work on it. You just work on it when it's a little too late.
Yeah. A little too late for the business or a little too late at night, like when everything else is like,
both of them. Both of them. So I'm saying is, so work on proactive on it. You're spending time on it when it's a big issue. And I have to fix it when it's already a little too late in the process.
Yeah. Like when the transmission goes out on the business, it's a little too late to make the engine go.
Got it. So I do want to speak to you about an event coming up. I know you're going to be speaking. Just give us like a 30-second on that event. What is it? Who's going to be speaking there so our audience can know about it?
So it's a great chance to come work on your business, speaking exactly what Meny was saying. So the Path for Growth team, a guy named Alex Judd, he's actually been a guest on Meny's podcast before. He's a dear friend of mine. We worked together for Dave Ramsey for several years. He and I are coming together with the rest of the Path Growth team. We're doing a one-day event. It starts at 9 a.m. It's at the Newark Hilton Airport Hotel. It lasts pretty much the whole day. Alex is going to be doing some content. His team's going to be doing some content. I'm actually doing a deep dive on the Compass method where I'm going to walk through exactly how to do each step of the process. I think the value is 10x the ticket price of what you're going to learn that day. Like quite frankly, just learning how to do a Compass method in your business, I think will add a massive lift to your very next quarter that you apply it. So we'd love to have you come out if you own a business owner and you live in the Newark metro area, you live in the big city in New York, and you can get over there for the day. We'd love to have you. And I believe hopefully they gave you a coupon code for your audience to be able to save some money on the ticket price too.
Yeah. What's the date?
So it's May the 27th, 9 a.m. That's a Tuesday. It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I'll actually be flying up from Nashville myself. Alex will be coming in from Arizona. We've got a lot of great leaders on the ground already that are excited. We've got lots of people already registered, but there are a few seats left. So hopefully some people from your listener base here can make it.
Yeah, it's a great event, and I'm hoping to be there myself as well. So we'll meet in person, and if you have any questions about the event, obviously you could reach out to the links in the show notes, or you could ask me specifically if the event is for you. But like we said before, it's always, regardless of 100% of the outcome of the event, the initiative of taking a day out of your busy hustle and just working on the business for the sake of working on your business, that alone gives you a peace of mind and gives you some clarity of where to focus. And of course, with you there and Alex and the rest of the team, there's going to be a ton of good content at the event. So for the links, resources mentioned in this episode, check out the show notes at www.ptexgroup.com/podcast, where we will link to the event. We'll also link to a coupon code that you can use for the remaining seats still available for our listeners. And before we wrap up, where's a place where people could find more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So the two primary ways that you can learn more about me is I actually have a podcast myself. It's not a interview style podcast. It's a weekly teaching podcast that drops every Tuesday. That's called 10-Minute Masterclass. So you can go learn more about the way I think about sales and marketing there, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Trey Sheneman on LinkedIn. That's the only social media site that I have that I'm active on. And I create, probably 10 or 15 pieces of content over there every week where I just give away whatever I'm learning for free, because that's how I believe it should be.
Beautiful. So we'll link up to your LinkedIn and ultimately to your website as well. Let's close with the 4 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1, a book that changed your life.
Ooh. I would say Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Good book. Number 2, a piece of advice you got that you never forget.
Take criticism to your head and compliments to your heart, not the other way around.
Wow. Number 3, anything you wish you could go back and do differently.
I wish I could go back and be there, more present in the early days of my son's life. I was building a business and I traveled a lot. And my wife, when we had a special needs son, was doing a lot on her own. And I wish I could go back and change that.
Wow. That's emotional, but I do know that you're giving away a lot of your time now, and keep it up. And these memories will always be there for them.
Yeah.
And last and final question, what's still on your bucket list to achieve?
There's 4 courses in Scotland that I want to play golf on. That is like my big, but there's a revenue goal that I'm going to hit in Herald. And when I do, I'm buying tickets to Europe. My whole family's going, and I'm playing golf in Scotland.
Cool. Trey, thank you so much for joining us. I know your time is valuable. That is why in the name of our listeners, we'll forever be grateful for sharing some of your time with us today. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. That's my conversation with Trey Sheneman. My takeaway from this one, number 1, start even if you're not perfect. Trey didn't wait for the perfect plan. He just started. That's what helped him go from losing his job to building a strong career. You learn the most by doing, not just thinking. Number 2, try different things before picking your lane. Trey says, being a generalist first, so when the opportunity comes, you can become a capitalist. Try a few areas first. Once you find what you're good at, go deep and it'll pay off. Number 3, ask the right questions to go clear. Before spending money or making big moves, Trey always gets clear on what's working, what's not, and what's missing. That's what his compass method is all about. Don't guess, get clarity. Number 4, make time to work on your business. Most people only step back when something breaks. Trey says, do it sooner. Block time every quarter or even every week to think about where you're going and what needs to improve. Number 5, listen to your customers all the time. Surveys, calls, chats. Trey stays in touch with his clients nonstop. Why? Because the best marketing comes straight from your customers' words. Whether you're just starting out or already running a business, there's a lot in this episode you can take and use right away. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Let's Look Business podcast. I hope you enjoyed the practical, no-nonsense advice that our guest shared. If you found value in listening, I would be so grateful if you could share the episode with your friends, and if you could give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever platform you listen. Subscribe to the show and get notified every time we publish a new episode. The Let's Look Business podcast is a PTEX Group original production. Until next time, make it a great day.